Kosaburo frowned immediately, a little puzzled, but his eyes remained vigilant. The person in front of him seemed to know his identity very well. He closed his eyes deeply, and the closed eyelids covered the emotions in his eyes. When he opened it again, his eyes were full of coldness. Sorry, the old man stopped making swords a long time ago. Brad and Nolly on the side were a little anxious, and were about to speak when they were stopped by a gesture from Caesar. Caesar sat down to himself. Under the signal of Shimotsuki Kozaburo, the children in the dojo went to practice swords in the woods behind. There was a faint smile on Caesar's mouth, his eyes were full of confidence, and he was not annoyed at Shimotsuki's rejection at all. He pointed to the countless wooden swords in the large container in the corner of the dojo. Ordinary knives are in my hands, just like these wooden knives, which may break after a fierce battle. Finding a good knife is a waste of time, and... He paused for a second. Mr. Kozaburo, a good sword matches a strong man. As for me, I am such a strong person. Only when the top famous knife is in my hands can it play its role to a greater extent. Famous knives exist to find a strong man who is worthy of him. In contrast, a strong swordsman like me is of course also working hard to find a famous sword that can show his strength. Shimotsuki Kosaburo slightly opened his slightly closed eyes, and there were slight waves in his eyes. For Caesar's words, a sense of identity arises. Yes indeed. Isn't the famous knife born for the strong? The strong and the famous sword are like the existence of Maxima and Bowl. He thought of the enma he had cast, and that sword found meaning in Kazuki Oden's hands. He slowly closed his eyelids, took a deep breath, and then shook his head. Sorry, I still can't agree to this request. Caesar touched the stubborn emotion in Kosaburo's eyes and sighed softly. Okay, then I'll wait here. I believe Mr. Kozaburo will change his mind. You. As if he had never seen such a brazen person, Kosaburo was momentarily at a loss for words. The three of Caesar found a place to live in Shimotsuki village. For 5 consecutive days, Caesar appeared in the Yixin dojo every day. He didn't harass Kozaburo all the time, but his sense of presence was so strong. Every time, I sit in the dojo and listen to the class like other children. When practicing, I also pick up the wooden sword, as if I am really a member here. Those children in the dojo were very afraid of this strange big brother at first. But Caesar confronts the children patiently every time, without any perfunctory, and will take the initiative to teach them about kendo during the battle. Brother Caesar, are you really strong? You are from the Grand Line. Where is the Grand Line? Is the Grand Line as pretty as East Blue? During the break, the children surrounded him chattering. Ganali felt that it was very embarrassing to lie on the windowsill, but he couldn't help but look up. Then he turned his eyes away in disgust. Really, does this look like a pirate? According to him, if the old man disagrees, why not hit him until he agrees? Gone. Take Brad to help him, they need to resupply. Kozaburo glanced out of the window, then retracted his eyes and unconsciously fixed on Caesar. His forehead hurt, and he sighed helplessly. 7 days have passed. After all the dojo kids left, Caesar was about to turn around and leave. Wait. Caesar turned his back to Kozaburo's face, and slowly burst into a triumphant smile. Turning around and looking at Kozaburo suspiciously, what? Kozaburo said helplessly, I agree. This person has been here for a long time and will definitely attract Marine's attention. He had seen Caesar's wanted notice. This newcomer, the first time he was wanted, had a bounty of more than 300 million. He was not an ordinary person. Naturally, there would be many Marines chasing him. Not to mention, the other party is also a member of the Rocks Pirates. That pirate group, when he went abroad illegally, became famous in the sea and became very powerful. Caesar and others were found by Marine, and they will naturally be found. Then his Wanokuni status. Maybe it will attract the attention of the world government, and he doesn't want to take that risk. That would be wonderful. Excitement welled up in Caesar's eyes. Don't be so anxious and excited. Although I don't know where you learned about my identity, I only forge big sharp knives. However, the materials needed for the big fast knife are particularly precious. He hands Caesar a piece of paper. Caesar saw that they were all kinds of materials used for making swords. You try to collect the above materials as much as possible. The better the materials, the better the sharp knife will be. He paused for a second, then continued. Although I know it's difficult, but if possible, try to collect as much as possible. Caesar raised his eyebrows slightly. No problem. Although very helpless, Caesar also knows that the material of the big fast knife is not so easy to find. After all, it is your own knife, so finding materials is inevitable. The next day. It's time to go. Brad froze for a moment. He felt that this place was so comfortable, and he had a great time playing. No need to face fights and battles all day long. And not having to deal with a bunch of stinky pirates is really, really nice. Nolly gave him a sideways glance. Have you lingered? Caesar smiled. It's been a long delay, sorry. This time I went to sea to find materials for casting swords. Come on. Go say goodbye to them. Caesar brought several people back to Yixin dojo. The kids in the dojo didn't see Caesar today, they looked outside the dojo frequently during training. When Caesar and his party appeared, they flocked immediately. Caesar. Kosaburo covered his head and sighed, really. After comforting the children, he walked up to Kosaburo. Mr. Kosaburo, I want to borrow a word from you about peace. At present, he has no knife to use and is in an embarrassing period. If you encounter a vice admiral level marine like Zephyr, it will be difficult to play your best strength. What did you say? Kosaburo's forehead burst out with veins, and this man dared to speak. Does he know how important the word Hidaoyi is? It was specially built as the inheritance of my own Shimotsuki family. Then he sighed again, feeling extremely entangled in his heart. He was really reluctant to borrow it, but he also didn't want this person to stay here any longer. Aren't you a pirate? Will a pirate borrow a knife and return it? Caesar shrugged helplessly. Although Hidaoyi's writing is a very powerful 21-handed sword, it is not very suitable for me. Of course I want a sword that fits perfectly with me, so that I can exert my greatest strength. After finishing speaking, he scratched his chin embarrassingly. Isn't there no use for a knife now? Just borrow it temporarily. When I collect enough materials and come back, I will naturally return them to you. Kosaburo pursed his lips tightly, hesitated a little, and finally nodded in agreement. Then it's settled, you must protect it and return it to me in the future, otherwise, your knife will be forgotten. Caesar nodded. When he came out of the dojo again, there was a white scabbard knife pinned to his waist, which was exactly the character of Hedao. After boarding the boat, the two crowded in front of him chattering. Brad looked at the knife on his waist with bright eyes. It looks so cool. Did the dojo uncle give it to you? I didn't give it to him. I borrowed it from him, just to use it for a while. Nolly looked at the knife on Caesar's waist, and suddenly felt that he was much stronger. Nodding immediately, he understood why he had to spend so much effort to come here to ask for the sword. You really don't look like a pirate. The pirates he saw at the scrap terminal didn't know how to borrow anything, they only robbed, including himself. Caesar laughed twice. Pirates don't have a fixed look. Nolly was stunned for a moment, lost his mind for a while, and then came back to his senses, and asked. Then shall we go find the materials next? Where are we going? Brad looked at him with curious eyes too. Caesar shook his head. Although these materials are rare, it's not difficult to find them in auction houses. The most important thing is that we have the funds. He took out a map and pointed to one of the places. Near here, you can go to Sky Island. Sky Island is full of gold, and I'm going to take some gold to buy materials. As soon as he finished speaking, he raised his eyes, and met a pair of shocked and blank eyes. Brad's eyes were filled with, "Are you crazy? What is Sky Island?" Nolly, who had never been out to sea, looked at the two suspiciously. Brad is also full of doubts. He has not been out to sea for a long time, and the things he has seen are limited. Sky Island is just a legend, how could it really exist? After speaking, Brad immediately gave Nalikop the legend about Sky Island. After listening, Ganali also looked at him in disbelief. It probably doesn't exist. Have you seen the man from Sky Island? Caesar was a little helpless, thinking about how to persuade the two of them. When he heard this, he immediately raised his eyebrows. Of course I have. Really? Real. Brad and Nolly looked at each other for a long time before they both nodded. Let's go then. After agreeing, the three set off towards the location of Sky Island. At the same time, on the coast not far from the kingdom of Goa, a ship slowly walked up to the harbor. Hoo. Hoo. Bang. The bubbles exhaled from the nose suddenly dissipated. Garp, who was lying on the chair, opened his eyes in a daze, then stretched lazily. It's so comfortable in this weather. The two marine soldiers following him looked at each other helplessly, and were about to say something. Garp suddenly turned his head to look somewhere along the coast, his eyes brightened. On the other side, Caesar, who had just set out to sea, frowned, and instantly released a super wide range of knowledge. That's Garp. On the other side, Zephyr waited for 10 days and half a month without any news from Caesar and his party. Had to go back to the Grand Line to carry out his new mission. But Garp lost Roger's trace again, so he ran back to the windmill village of Goa Kingdom for vacation in the name of inspecting East Blue. No one expected to run into Caesar here, so the words probably meant that the flowers were planted on purpose, but the willows were planted unintentionally. The sailors on the warship were also very surprised. That's Caesar that Zephyr Vice Admiral is chasing. I didn't expect to meet here. Brad also saw Garp, his head froze for an instant, and his legs were trembling. That's it, that Tekken card. Garp? The ending sound is trembling, almost broken. This obvious reaction made Ganali a little curious. Is he a very strong person? I also frowned in my heart. I didn't expect them to be so unlucky. They ran into Marine as soon as they went out to sea. Caesar looked at Garp, and Garp looked at Caesar, looking at each other. Garp laughed. It's you, boy. What are you doing in East Blue? Caesar pursed his lips and smiled. This has nothing to do with you, Vice Admiral. Ha 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 ha, kid, you were really a newborn calf not afraid of tigers. Boom. After a few laughs, Garp punched straight away. The two met in the air, and their huge black fists collided with huge sparks. The airflow that was forced to cut out in a circle caused the sea to vibrate violently. Bang bang bang. Caesar was knocked down on the ship at once, and when he was about to hit the deck, his figure in the air slowed down strangely, and finally the deck was only cracked. But Garp was still standing on his boat, looking at Caesar with some doubts. Strange, what happened just now? The power of that punch is enough for him to smash the boat into pieces. Is it the ability of that young man who has never seen it before? Garp muttered to himself suspiciously, and couldn't help but glance at Nali. And Ganali stared blankly. This Marine is too powerful. One strike. Caesar was obviously at a disadvantage after being hit by him. How is it possible? Caesar is so powerful. His big mouth couldn't close at all, which was somewhat unbelievable. Brad, who was on the side, was a little flustered in his eyes. This Marine Vice Admiral can go back and forth with that pervert big rocks. Caesar shook his aching fist. Garp's armament hockey was too strong. It's not on the same level as him at all, but he was not given a chance to breathe. As soon as he stood firm, Garp rushed forward again with his fists clenched. Kang. Caesar instantly pulled out the word Hedao from his waist. The sharp blade collided with the armed hardened fist, making the roar of gold and iron clashing. The armed color on the sword and the armed color on Garp's fist are against each other. Click. Click. Bang bang bang. Cracks first spread out on the deck, and then began to crumble. Ganali was very unwilling and wanted to step forward to help fight Garp. One person can't beat it, but two people can always beat it. But a look from Caesar made him stay where he was. No need to come here. The cold voice made him feel as if a basin of cold water had been poured down his head. He gritted his teeth unwillingly. Kang kang kang. Caesar, who has taken Hidaoyi, has obviously improved his strength by a stage. It's not exactly a state of being crushed. There was a look of admiration and a smile in Garp's eyes. Young man, it is too early for you to go to sea now. Not to mention going to a vicious pirate group like Rocks. Even if you're not defeated by me, sooner or later you will be defeated by the Rocks. Caesar snorted coldly. I just do it according to my own ideas, and you don't need to preach to me. The determination in his eyes was like a burning flame, extremely dazzling. Then be prepared to sacrifice your life for your own ideas. The two looked at each other, and the strength in their hands increased simultaneously. The muscles in Caesar's arms bulged like balloons. The word Hidao was quickly waved in his hand. Kang kang kang. The voice of gold and iron fighting each other got older and faster, and it became more piercing. Boom. Garp's fist seemed to contain infinite power, and he struck him head on again, piercing him hard to the ground. Caesar staggered to his feet, bruised in many places, and blood was still streaming from his forehead. Garp, this guy, although he hasn't really reached his peak yet, this armament hockey is really hard. Just talking about the hardness of armament hockey, I am afraid that Garp at this time is already the best in the world. I'm afraid that the current strongest rocks in the world can't compare in this aspect alone. Clang clang clang. The two continued to fight, and the naked eyes could not capture the figures and movements of the two. The boat was teetering, and under the guidance of Caesar, the battlefield was transferred to the warship. Give up, it's too ugly to see you struggling. Caesar was already a little unconscious, breathing violently. Are you kidding me? How could he fall down in such a place? There was a buzzing in my mind, don't even think about it. With a roar, he hit Garp with an unprecedented momentum. Zilla zilla. Black lightning lingered from the tip of the knife to the tip of the knife. Garp's pupils shrank. Bang bang bang. Garp flashed quickly, but the deck and cabin behind him were completely destroyed, and even Marine's sails were cut off from the air. Conqueror's winding? Caesar sighed. Momentarily repelling the Garp, without giving them a chance to react, Caesar jumped aboard his ship, which quickly disappeared from view. Vice Admiral, they're headed in the direction of the calm belt. Calm belt. Garp frowned, looked at the scarred warships and sailors. Forget it. Calm belt sea area. There was not a breath of wind blowing on the sea, nor did their sails move. At the same time, the boat did not move at all. Caesar, who was beaten and uncomfortable, sat in the boat and watched Nolly and Brad row hard. And he released Conqueror's Hockey from time to shock the Sea Kings. Finally, after half a day, they found a deserted island. The next day, Caesar woke up with thick bandages all over his body, left over from the fight with Garp. "Are you awake? Are you okay?" Brad and Nolly looked at him. Caesar felt a little bit of injuries everywhere, but not very serious. Fine. After simply figuring out the situation, Caesar made a decision. "Let's rest here for a while. By the way, I also improved my strength. First met Marine Vice Admiral twice in a row, and I lost." Although he knew that his strength was indeed inferior to these two Marine Vice Admirals who already had Admiral's strength, he was still unconvinced. "Go and practice." After eating to replenish his strength, he took the two of them to the deserted island. "Really? Caesar, you're not in good health yet." Brad looked at him worriedly. Ganali also frowned tightly. "Don't be too messy." Caesar shook his head. "I know what's wrong with my body." "Come on. Let's go. Release your hockey. Now is an excellent opportunity to improve your strength, don't miss it." Nolly and Brad looked at each other, and the two unanimously used armament hockey to attack Caesar. Boom. Caesar also blocked with his hardened fist. He looked slightly stunned, feeling that armament hockey was much stronger than before. And he frowned, looked at the two of them. "Attack my lower body." Without hesitation, Ganali attacked his feet. Brad hesitated for a moment. Kang. Caesar didn't dodge or dodge, just stood there motionless. And where Ganali attacked, the color of the armed forces also hardened. Brad's eyes widened immediately. "It's amazing, you have become stronger, Caesar." Caesar nodded. The armor color that could only cover the upper body before could now cover all but the calves and feet. It is quite useful to face two vice admirals in a short time. But it's still annoying. The three of them trained on the island like this. His main purpose is to give Brad and Nolly a special hockey training. After all, without a powerful hockey cultivation base, one cannot become a real top powerhouse. He didn't want his companion to be beaten to the ground in New World. Nolly and Brad stood in front of a high mountain, which reached into the sky, and the top could not be seen at all. The sound of boom boom kept ringing. They are conducting the most primitive and direct training, squeezing hockey, and practicing boxing with mountains. Half a month has passed. Help. Both of them were blindfolded, and were chased by ferocious beasts on the deserted island behind them. Don't look with your eyes, use your thoughts to appreciate the position of the beast. He is observation hockey trying to induce these two. Ho ho ho. The howling of wild beasts continued. As the loud sound approached, Ganali couldn't help turning around, and knocked the beast away with his fist. Boom boom boom. The beast fell back to the ground, and the ground trembled a little. Caesar frowned helplessly. The current armed colors of the two have become much stronger. The movement made was too loud. These beasts all have mothers, you too. Caesar sighed unwillingly. Didn't I tell you that you only train knowledgeable people? The observation hockey of the two of them is only close to the goal, and both have a chance to awaken. But the instinct to face the threat directly is too much in the way. Boom boom boom. Ho ho ho. It was too late to say it, and the beast in the jungle on the deserted island roared out in an instant. Hearing the sound of footsteps, there are probably dozens of them. Nolly and Brad immediately pulled down the cloth on their eyes. No way, this is coming. This is too fast. Caesar chuckled and glanced at Nolly. Gnarly, try Conqueror's hockey. Ganali raised his eyebrows when he heard the words, "Hey, look at me." Taking a step forward, Ganali frowned slightly, his eyes fixed. Nothing happened. Ganali immediately widened his eyes. Why is this happening? Seeing the beast running closer and closer, his eyes were a little flustered. What should we do now? Caesar said coldly. Don't worry about it. Think about your mood or thoughts when you successfully used it last time. Conqueror's hockey is an outward expression of inner momentum and verve. In the early stage of awakening, using Conqueror's hockey is very dependent on the inner spirit of the person. Nolly was taken aback. Half a second later, the air was suddenly silent. The howling beast stopped in its tracks. In the next second, cold sweat broke out on his face. With fear in his eyes, he turned his head and fled. Surprise appeared in Ganali's eyes. I succeeded again. Caesar slightly hooked his lips, smiled, and was about to say something. The voice of the phone bug rang. Caesar, it's time to come back. It's rocks. Yeah, I got it. Another half-month later, after sailing all the way, they returned to Hive Island again. Ganali was surprised by the chaotic environment on the island, and also felt uncomfortable for a while. Is this a pirate? Caesar glanced at him. As I said, pirates don't have a fixed look. What kind of pirate you want to be is entirely up to you. Brad nodded. Yes, yes. I am like this, at least Caesar and I will not take the initiative to kill ordinary people, nor will we rob those people's property. Of course not. He glanced at the pirate who was having fun with a woman in the pool, and blushed. In short, Caesar and I are very clean. Nolly's eyes lit up, and he nodded with burning eyes, seeing Caesar's back with more approval. In his heart, a real strong man is like Caesar, who has his own bottom line and persistence in his heart, no matter what dangerous situation he is in. A man who can stick to his principles. From the very beginning, he followed Caesar for his life, and now, he recognized it from the bottom of his heart. It only took a month. The three of them continued to practice on the Hive Island and did not change for the change of the environment. 3 days later, the Rock's ships are back. The yelling voice of the pirates became even louder, and the entire island was filled with restlessness. Caesar took Brad and the two to meet Rox. Rox leaned on the big stool at the top, looking indifferently at the 3 Caesars who came in. Under the rocks, there are Whitebeard, Ant, Kaido and other cadres sitting. The crowd couldn't help being taken aback when they saw the new face behind Caesar. Nolly went to East Blue and brought back a good man. And Caesar, ignoring the floating cadres, introduced to Rox. The subordinates I recruited in East Blue are pretty good. Golden Lion was biting a cigar in his mouth, the thick smoke was lingering, and his eyes were full of interest. The corner of Whitebeard's mouth is still curved with a smile, and the iconic crescent moon beard looks a bit simple and honest. The ant kept eating all kinds of sweets and didn't pay much attention to it. Rox laughed a few times, looking at Nolly with some surprise. Not bad. So, have you finished what you have to do? Caesar nodded, and gave a brief description, but did not mention Shimotsuki's name and his specific information. After watching for a while, Ganali also saw that the powerful members of the pirate group were doing their own thing. With his clever mind and the status quo of the Rock's pirates that Caesar gave him before, in a short period of time, it is enough to understand. The Rock's pirates are not united, and the cadres are doing their own thing. No wonder Caesar is so sure that the day of independence is not far away. Only. He frowned slightly, is Rox really that easy to deal with? After the brief meeting ended, Caesar rubbed the words of Hedao on his waist and walked towards Golden Lion Shiki. Fortunately, I got a famous sword temporarily. How about it, Shiki, do you want to fight with me? As expected, he took the initiative to choose Golden Lion, the strongest swordsman among the cadres. Golden Lion bit his cigar and laughed a few times. Then come on. He also wondered how powerful Caesar had become during this time. And there was a flash of appreciation and ambition in his eyes. If you can beat Caesar, you can pull him into your team. Waiting for the day he forms his own pirate group. Thinking of this, the ambition in his eyes became stronger and stronger. When the people around heard that the two were about to confront each other, they instantly became interested. Big Mom's big mouth was still covered in chocolate sauce. Well, then I'll go visit it too. Caesar, you guys fought Whitebeard last time, it was earth-shattering and destroyed that island. It's a pity that I didn't witness such a grand event with my own eyes. Whitebeard raised the corners of his lips slightly. I'm also curious about Caesar's progress during this time. A strange light flashed in Kaido's eyes, and he swung the mace in his hand several times. To be honest, I also want to fight with you. But it's good to watch your fight with that bastard Shiki in advance. Brad and Nolly looked at each other, frowning slightly, and followed everyone worriedly. Ganali was particularly worried. He heard that the members of this pirate group would not care about life and death in a duel. They came to a desert island, which was about the same size as the last time. Within a second of landing on the island, the rocks came too. Ha 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 ha, I'll also see if the two of you will destroy an island again. Caesar and Golden Lion looked at each other, and the fighting spirit was instantly filled. Kang. It was too late and then it was too fast, and the sound of gold and iron clashing was harsh. The words of Hidaoyi collided with the sharp sword in the hands of Golden Lion. The airflow exploded with a bang. Amazing haki swept away from their respective bodies. Black and red lightning spread from the place where the weapons collided. Zilla. Like thunder and lightning, the sky and the earth changed color. Everyone onlookers felt the tightness of ultimate. The haki of these two people is really too strong. Many little pirates who followed to watch the fun were stunned. And Whitebeard and the others couldn't help squinting their eyes, slightly blocking Haki who was sweeping over. Kang. Another sound. After the two separated, they bumped into each other again. It's purely a contest of strength and Haki. Caesar looked at the Golden Lion, who was close at hand, with serious eyes. Tightly pursing his lips, the offensive intensified again. Both hands clenched the handle of He Dao Yuan's knife. Slash at the golden lion. Kang kang kang. The two kept colliding in the air and separated again. The sound of sharp weapons clashing can be heard endlessly. In the next second, the two opened up a long distance in the air. Slash wave. Golden Lion raised his sword and slashed fiercely. The crescent-shaped slash came out quickly. Speed, comparable to lightning. In the blink of an eye, he arrived in front of him. Boom boom boom. Wherever the slash wave went, the ground became a large rift that was pouring into the sea. The cracks are bottomless. Whitebeard and the others narrowed their eyes slightly, and had a clearer understanding of the strength of Golden Lion and Caesar. Boom. Caesar actually blocked it directly. Such a strong attack, right in front of the door, would split the person in half. Ah! With a roar, Caesar used all his strength to resist the slash. The veins in both hands bulged, and the muscles bulged up instantly, as if they were about to explode, storing peak strength. What? With an angry shout, he flicked to the left. Click. Bang, bang. The sword slash that was thrown away hit the huge rock group on the side. Hundreds of rocks exploded instantly. Only the powder remains. The hands holding He Daoyi's words trembled slightly, and his breathing became a little short. He was obviously still at a disadvantage. The Golden Lion is not underestimated. Slash wave. This attack was not done by the Golden Lion, but by Caesar. After several battles, Caesar also learned the Golden Lion's attack. Several people's eyes widened instantly. Caesar, a learning madman, is it okay to learn other people's moves on the spot? Just like before, slash waves skimmed across the ground. Like an eagle gliding at low altitude, instantly broke the ground. It seems that the island is going to be divided into two halves. Golden Lion frowned, and gently extended his right hand. Boom boom boom. The ground kept shaking. After the rocks beside the island trembled loudly, they gathered together violently with a bang. It became a solid barrier in front of Golden Lion. The display of Lion Fruit's ability put Caesar, who has just barely gained the same advantage, at a disadvantage. Lion Majesty. Govern place earth coiling. Golden Lion didn't give him a chance to breathe. After blocking the slash, he stretched out his hand. Standing in the air, he looked down at Caesar. The winner of this battle must be me. After letting go of the harsh words, he lifted his fingertips lightly. Boom boom boom. Ho ho ho. The ground shook like an earthquake at first. Immediately afterwards, among the flying sand and rocks, the mud mixed with the rocks gathered into the shape of 4 lions. Roaring towards him from 4 angles of Caesar respectively. Caesar frowned, and the hand holding the handle of the knife tightened immediately. The thick vigilance in his eyes immediately turned into indifference and ambition, the ambition to win. Don't even think about succeeding. A roar. Immediately afterwards, Zila Zila. Conqueror's hockey is wrapped around the knife. The body spun in the air, driving the blade, and made a circular slash in the air. Bang bang bang. The impact of the slash is no weaker than that of a lion. The two phases collided, and the sound shook the world. In the wind and dust, the yellow sand is all over the sky. Rocks and several cadres who watched the play gradually became serious. Moment. The smoke dispersed. But the lion was severed by the slash and turned into a pool of useless sand. He swung a heavy blow towards the Golden Lion in the air. A slash wrapped in Conqueror's hockey. In an instant, he was in front of the Golden Lion. Boom. The slack in Golden Lion's eyes has long since become serious. This Conqueror's hockey is too strong. This kid's Conqueror's talent is truly astonishing. After barely blocking the slash, the two looked at each other. Clang. Only 2 figures were seen moving quickly. Swept towards the other side fiercely. Finally hit the ground hard. The purple-black lightning flashed. 2 phases collide. Conqueror's entanglement and Conqueror's entanglement on weapons. Conqueror's imposing confrontation between the two. A little sweat gradually gathered on Golden Lion's face, while Caesar's eyes were still firm and his expression was burning. He could feel that his 3 colors had rapidly increased in this battle, and his mental strength had also improved. So, this battle, he will not lose. Ah! He roared again, and his hand was even more forceful. In the next second, there was a bang. Golden Lion was beaten into the air. Caesar stood where he was, a faint smile on his face. Although in this duel, Golden Lion has reservations. But his strength has really improved a lot. The crowd of the Rock's pirates felt full of interest, and the battle was over before they had seen enough. Rock's eyes are full of admiration for Caesar. Just about to say something, the next second. There was a rumbling sound. The ground kept shaking. Caesar frowned, and looked intently at the ground hit by the slash wave drawn by him and Golden Lion. The soil on both sides of the Great Rift Valley began to tremble and move apart. Come on, the island is about to split. Caesar ran out fiercely, picked up Nolly and Brad and fled to the boat. The others also fled one after another, but their expressions were very excited. It turns out that the strong fight can really redraw the map. Really learned a lot. But next time, don't come to such a dangerous battlefront. After returning to Hive Island, everyone was still discussing the duel just now with excited expressions. The Golden Lion obviously admired Caesar more and more, and his desire to recruit him into the team became stronger and stronger. Caesar didn't care much, and practiced in a forest on the island with Brad and Nolly as usual. He is trying to digest the gains of this battle. Golden Lion's main output is swordsmanship, haki, and devil fruit ability. And he is kenjutsu and haki and taijutsu. The battle between the two was due to the fact that his conqueror's haki was a little stronger than Golden Lion. Otherwise, there is really no way to offset the poor ability brought by devil fruit. The matter of collecting sword-casting materials is now coming to an end. This is the disadvantage of not being the captain yourself, and your actions will be restricted. Time passed day by day like this. The three of him and Ganali are fighting and practicing daily on the island. Caesar felt that his conqueror's haki had improved, and his momentum was stronger than before. Mr. Caesar, Captain Rox asked me to inform you that we are going to leave the ship in 3 days. A pirate ran over panting and said respectfully to the three of them. Caesar raised his eyebrows slightly and nodded. Seeing that Caesar received it, the pirate turned around and ran away in a hurry. After watching the battle between Caesar and Golden Lion, there are not so many people who don't have eyes to provoke Caesar. After all, this is someone who can split an island in half with one blow. They used to think that Caesar would not kill the opponent, so they took chances to fight him. But now I really dare not. 3 days later, several people landed in the Rocks pirate group, and they drove out together, and there were 3 other ships. I have to say that the Rocks pirates are really big, and the ostentation of going out to sea is comparable to 4 emperors. Come on, drink one. The sound in the cabin was very lively. The pirates hooked up shoulder to shoulder and mixed together, some drinking wine, some eating meat, and some eating desserts. The Golden Lion hooked Caesar's shoulders, leaning closer to him. Brother Caesar, I appreciate you, let's have a toast. The corner of Caesar's mouth twitched slightly, but in the end he didn't say anything offensive, and drank his beer in one gulp. He didn't want to fight the Golden Lion on the boat. I didn't have a good time playing. If it's really fun, the ship may also be torn apart. The ant kept chewing on the dessert, and the chocolate sauce flowed down the corner of her mouth. Shaki, are you an idiot? Who wants you to be brothers? Be somewhat self-aware of yourself. The ant taunted him mercilessly. Kaido also interjected. It was rare to reach an agreement with the ant, and mocked Golden Lion's self-indulgence. Not only Golden Lion, several other people also want to win over Caesar. Caesar is an extraordinary force. Now the strength is completely in the first batch of Rocks pirates, and there is no problem with the admiral-level combat power. Taking advantage of Caesar's young age and little experience, it would be best to fool him into his team. Being disturbed by the crowd, Caesar had no choice but to go on the deck, enjoying the moment of tranquility with the sea breeze blowing. Whitebeard suddenly sat on the railing at some point. How about, will you be with me in the future? Caesar frowned. Unexpectedly Whitebeard also opened his mouth to recruit him. Caesar shook his head calmly. Whitebeard seemed to think it was expected, not unexpected. Come on, brothers, the treasure on the ship is ours. Rock's rampant sound is very unscrupulous. Even the voices of the pirates who responded loudly were tinged with bloodthirsty cruelty. Come on. The shouts shook the sky. The ship they were on, the pirate flag was still fluttering in the wind 1 second, and turned into ashes the next second. As a clarion call to war. This pirate group is quite powerful, there are several demon fruit power alone. The ship is still quite large, and the luxurious ostentation is almost like telling people, come and snatch me. It's no wonder that Rox is eyeing him. What? Who? A few minions of the opposing pirates stood in front of him. Caesar glanced at him coldly, and these people immediately trembled. I tell you, our captain is Pooh. With a flash of the sword, a column of blood gushes out. The 3 fell to the ground immediately. With a clang, he inserted the sword into the scabbard. The footsteps slowly passed the bodies of these people. He also needs to be positive. If you can't get gold from Sky Island, it's good to save a little more money. God blocks and kills God all the way. Buddha blocks and kills Buddha, and arrives at the cabin of the pirate ship. Headed towards the place where there seemed to be signs of multiple guards. That's where it really matters. Suddenly, a breaking wind came from behind. Boom. He raised his fist a notch. With a single blow from the hardened fist, the person was sent flying to the wall. The man felt his pupils tremble as he covered his trembling arms. This guy, Haki's strength is too scary. Caesar didn't want to fight, so he drew his sword quickly. But in the next second, he suddenly inserted the words "he Dao" into the scabbard. He narrowed his eyes slightly, staring at the steel pipe behind the man's arm. It has rusted. He recognized it as a rusty fruit at a glance, and used a knife to deal with it, purely courting death. He didn't want to gamble on whether the sword body would be immune to the power of the rusty fruit if the sword was wrapped in color. The man stood up, curious about his reaction. You know what I'm capable of. The eyebrows and eyes are quite self-satisfied, as if he is so powerful. Caesar chuckled. I have understood. You're too timid. As a swordsman, you don't dare to use a sword? The intention of provocation was obvious, but Caesar was not fooled, and his fists hardened. You can be easily killed without a sword. The man's face changed slightly. About to release the ability. In a flash, Caesar is close at hand. Bang bang bang. People were thrown out one after another, smashed the wood in the cabin, and passed out. Caesar sneered, turned and left. In New World, if you rely too much on Devil Fruit's ability, you must be prepared to lose. He walked forward slowly, and after clearing a few floors, he came to a weapons and equipment room. Suddenly, he was attracted by the box above. Inexplicably, he was a little concerned, fixed his eyes for a long time, and finally took him down. When he opened it, he paused, raised his eyebrows slightly, and then hooked the corners of his lips. Strange and complicated pattern, dark purple color, peach-like shape. It's devil fruit. And from the looks of it, it should be from Paramecia. Caesar put the box away without thinking of eating it. Mr. Caesar, you are here. It was an unknown pirate who came in, but it should be on the Rocks ship. Well, I accidentally found this weapons and equipment warehouse. Let's move it away. Yes. Night. In the small room where the three rest. Caesar took out the devil fruit. The two were surprised at the same time. Devil fruit? Brad instantly remembered the one he ate as a child. This stuff smells disgusting. He quickly covered his nose and moved away a little. Nolly was slightly stunned. Is it so unpalatable? Caesar handed him the fruit. Do you want to try it? Ganali's eyes widened, a little unbelievable. Give it to me? Caesar nodded. Brad already has demon fruit power, so naturally it won't be for him. As for himself, he didn't know what the devil fruit ability was, so he didn't use it. If it's a tasteless one, then it's a bullshit. There is no need to sacrifice swimming skills to obtain a tasteless ability. He told Nolly the pros and cons of it. Then he said, the decision is up to you, and I will give you what you want. Nolly pursed his lips tightly, hesitating for a long time. Of course he wants to improve his strength, but just like Caesar said, after eating devil fruit, he will lose certain advantages in sea battles. Sometimes it can become a drag on your companions. After about half an hour, Nolly finally shook his head. Come on, I still think it would be more useful to exercise Haki. Especially after watching the match between Caesar and the Golden Lion. Caesar respected his choice, and put the fruit away. Don't reveal that we have a fruit. He wasn't going to give it to Rocks, it was his now anyway. In the future, if you can find the Devil Fruit illustrated book, see if there is a need to eat it. If not, then use it to train the cadres on board. The ship moved forward as usual, and the calm sea was rippling with waves caused by the breeze. Caesar was feeling the comfort of the tranquil sea breeze brushing against his cheeks, and suddenly, his brows and eyes condensed. What's the matter, Caesar? Nolly looked at him strangely. I feel a strong breath. What? Hearing Caesar's words, the other pirates rushed to get the telescope. The camera cuts through the clouds and mist to see the approaching ship. The man trembled violently. Boom! The telescope fell to the ground. Caesar looked at him strangely. When did members of the Rocks pirates become so cowardly? The man trembled and fell to the ground. Yes, it's the Roger pirates. Caesar raised his eyebrows and raised his lips slightly. Roger. The One Piece who opened the era of great navigation in the future. Rocks came out quickly, and by this time the boat was approaching. Caesar looked up, his pupils shrinking slightly. Standing on Roger's pirate ship was a middle-aged man wearing a straw hat, with a very cheerful smile on his face. Those eyes were also full of determination, not the silence and calmness before death. Caesar's eyes were full of curiosity, and he kept looking at the future One Piece. Seeing Roger's Rocks look very excited. Ha 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 ha. Roger, we meet again. Roger took off his straw hat and smiled broadly. The fierce reputation is very inconsistent with the sunny and cheerful personality. Yeah, I haven't seen you for a while. Roger's face made Rox even more excited. Want to be my right-hand man? I believe in Roger's ability. As long as we join forces, we can overthrow the celestial dragons in the world government, and it will be just around the corner. He opened his hands, and the momentum on his body exploded instantly, and his clothes were rattled by the sea breeze. Isn't it easy to rebuild a huge kingdom? Caesar mused. A giant kingdom? Rox said. The ambition in his eyes grew bigger and bigger. It seems that such a picture is close at hand. Roger bowed his head slightly, then laughed, but his voice was very flat. Sorry, Rox, I still want to sail freely. The crew behind Roger were not surprised to hear their captain say no. This kind of solicitation is not the first time. Their captain will never become someone else's subordinate. Young Pluton Rayleigh's eyes twinkled, looking into Rox's eyes with a sharp gleam. The two sides confront each other. After Roger said that sentence, the atmosphere of the crew on both sides was a little tense. The always arrogant Rox pirates looked bloodthirsty at the Roger pirates. However, some people who knew Roger pirates only shivered and shrank behind the crowd, not wanting to confront them head-on. Why? Rox's face darkened. With your talent and my ability, world domination is easy. And rebuilding the huge kingdom, shouldn't it be your common dream? Roger chuckled, his eyes covered by the straw hat were uncertain. The great kingdom perishes, but the will of the D clan will live on forever. At that time, D's successor will rebuild the huge kingdom. This is the destiny of history, and you and I are the practitioners of this destiny. Rox had veins popping out of his forehead, storms gathered in his eyes, and he looked at Roger with dark eyes. I was very upset about Roger's rejection again. But that is not the purpose of my going to sea, not what I want. Roger raised his head slightly and glanced at him, his eyes under the straw hat had a firm luster. And, it won't be you. You will not be the one to rebuild the great kingdom. Cut. Clenching his teeth, Rox overflowed from between his lips and teeth, a sneer. You really don't take lousy seriously. The momentum around him exploded, and the veins on his forehead became more violent. Obviously, he was angry. Caesar raised his eyebrows slightly, looking at the two facing each other with anticipation in his eyes. Click. Click. A powerful aura emanated from the two people facing each other across the sea. The confrontation of the top conqueror's hockey left many crew members shuddering. The sides and decks of the ship began to crumble. Bang bang bang. One after another, the crew began to faint and fall to the ground. Caesar Whitebeard and others watched this top conqueror's hockey collide. The light in Golden Lion's eyes gradually became stronger. Roger, you underestimate me. Rox roared, and conquerors instantly strengthened. In an instant, the world changed. The powerful conquerors collided, blasting away the clouds. His eyes tilted down with incomparable clarity, shining on the two of them. The whistling wind continued. The impact of the airflow is comparable to a 7-level typhoon. Some people who did not stand still were directly blown to the bottom of the sea. The two ships were also shaken by the air current from the conqueror's hockey. Caesar was a little shocked at the power of Roger's conqueror's hockey. Although not as strong as Rox, his strength is not the rage that destroys everything like Rox, but the mind that embraces everything. Roger's figure was reflected in Caesar's pupils, and a look of admiration gradually flashed in his eyes. Roger's conqueror's hockey is even better than him. Boom. The moment he was distracted, the two suddenly fought. Each jumped into the air, punching and kicking each other. Where the fists clashed, a black and red light exploded. Zila Zila, scorching like lightning. Ganali, who was at the side, suddenly burst out with strong desire. Everyone present, but anyone who owns Conqueror's hockey, is excited for this scene. The strong, eager to fight against the strong. Their hearts are clamoring like this. Bang bang bang. The black fists intertwined with each other, are collided with each other, creating a strong flame. The next second, Roger jumped back onto the boat. The breath suddenly calmed down. Ha 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 ha, let's go. I don't want to start a war with you now, see you next time. The hearty voice lingered on the sea for a long time, and Roger's ship quickly moved away. Run so fast. Someone opened his mouth in amazement, but met Rox's furious eyes. John Ochaku glanced at each other, at the Golden Lion. Shaki, hurry up, use your lion fruit ability, and go after it. Yes, 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 if it's you, I will definitely be able to catch up. After hearing the urging of the two, Rox also looked at Golden Lion. Golden Lion didn't respond obviously. The crew did not dare to breathe out for a while, and all of them held their breath, feeling their scalps tingling. Even if Rox didn't release hockey, the powerful aura on his body when he was angry was suffocating. Only a few cadres remained unchanged. Golden Lion looked in the direction of Roger's ship, paused for a long time, and slowly grinned with a cigar in his mouth. Gia ha 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 ha, no, I think that guy is quite interesting. The appreciation and admiration in Golden Lion's eyes was undisguised, and the members on board looked at each other for a while. The veins on John's forehead raged. Shiki, you are too much. Ochaku also stood up, his eyes burning with rage. Rock's eyes were suddenly clouded, and the state of rage seemed to have been lifted, but it was replaced by another more frightening emotion. Golden Lion turned a blind eye to their anger, thinking back to Roger's Conqueror's hockey he saw just now, and the strength he showed. Roger, this person, completely aroused the desire to conquer in his heart. Caesar watched the play, but didn't say a word. I just feel a sense of fate in my heart, thinking of the future Golden Lion challenging the world government for Roger and being arrested in the end. The interest in his eyes became more and more intense. Several cadres with Conqueror's hockey also remained silent. Whitebeard seemed to be a little distracted, looking at the direction Roger was leaving. He didn't come back for a long time. And the ant's eyes are also very intriguing. Kaido and the others were also silent, as if they didn't feel the captain's fury. Just when everyone thought that Rox was about to get violent and teach the disobedient Golden Lion a lesson, he only took a deep look at a few cadres. Then he turned and walked into the cabin without saying a word. Boat, Captain. John and Ochaku looked at each other, and then looked at Golden Lion angrily at the same time. Golden Lion rested his hands on the back of his head leisurely, biting the cigars in his eyes more and more vigorously. Brad and Nolly, the two finally breathed a sigh of relief. The aura on Rox just now was really scary. Fortunately, he was standing beside Caesar, otherwise he would have been dizzy from the impact. But. The two looked at the direction where Roger pirates left at the same time. The influence brought by Roger cannot be dissipated in an instant. After meeting the Roger pirates, the Rox pirates were quiet for several days because of the weird atmosphere between Rox and the officers. Only recently has the atmosphere of the past been gradually restored. Catch a big fish and come up to eat. The three of Caesar were fishing boredly on the deck, feeling the breath of the bottom of the boat. He smiled, put down the fishing rod, and clenched his fists. Ganali frowned, his perception of this breath was very weak. At present, Brad has no sign of perception at all, he just looks curiously at the direction where Caesar is looking. Puff. In the next second, a huge black fish rolled up from the bottom of the sea. Roar. It opened its teeth and claws towards Caesar, and the high waves splashed by the dancing tail wet the deck. The roaring sound caused some guys on the boat to come out to watch it. Caesar jumped onto the side of the boat. Boom. Without the Conquerors, the fish is knocked out with one punch. That's great, Caesar, knocked out. With a leap, Caesar jumped into the sea, flung the black fish onto the deck, and jumped up himself. Let's make grilled fish. Both Brad and Nolly were in high spirits. I want to eat too. Golden Lion floated over, looking at the big fish, salivating a little. Whitebeard's rough voice also sounded, "Kula la 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 la, grill fish. Add me. I'd be happy to help grill the fish." Jenner hadn't had much contact with these cadres, so he was a little nervous. But Whitebeard is extraordinarily relatable, and it's easy to let your guard down. Caesar was speechless. This one or two, they didn't usually get together. It's not that I haven't eaten grilled fish. Let's do it together. He guessed that one grilled fish was not enough for these people. It seems that the stronger the person, the bigger the appetite. While these people were talking, he made a plop and jumped into the sea again. Soon 2 sea beasts were carried out. Golden Lion let out a very magical laugh, and once recognized the sea beast as his mother. The deck was filled with lively and noisy voices. The aroma of grilled fish lingers on the tip of the nose, and the fresh and tender fish is sizzling with fat under the fire. By the way, are we going back to Hive Island now? Caesar asked casually. He always felt that the sailing route was not right and a little strange. Hearing him ask this question, the crowd sitting around fell silent for a moment. Soon, Golden Lion was the first to laugh. I forgot, you are a new crew member, you probably haven't been there before. Whitebeard in Newgate glowed red under the flames. Yes, you'll know when you go there, it will surprise you. Caesar was aroused by the two. Isn't it going back to the Hive Island? Is it to the place where the treasure is placed? He thought of the warehouses filled to the brim with the looted ships. He didn't seem to see anything like it on Beehive Island. That treasure should be placed elsewhere. Both Whitebeard and Golden Lion froze for a second. Golden Lion immediately gave him a squinting look. Come on, it's boring, I guessed it right away. Caesar pursed his lips, eyes flickering. So that mysterious island is the funds accumulated by Rox to dominate the world in the future? Feeling a little excited in my heart, I unconsciously stuck out my tongue and licked my lips. Both Brad and Nolly were stunned, and both felt very shocked. Is the money so much that you need an island to hold it? Are you not afraid of being stolen? After eating and drinking, Caesar started his training routine again. Go to the training room and lift a barbell. Wish the arm strength could be more. Brad and Nolly are fighting, using armament hockey. Even if the ship was destroyed, Brad still used his human form. Boom. The extremely fast hands of the two collided, armed with hardened fists, and two blasts of air blasted immediately at the collision. Caesar stands upside down for a duel between the two. Soon the two pushed away, and the muscles in Brad's hands tensed up. The substantial muscles give the fist great strength. With a thump, Brad leapt into the air. Raise a black fist. Boom. Nolly dodged quickly. The wooden board on the ground was smashed and a big hole appeared. Ganali swept over with a blow on his long legs. With a sharp squatting leg wind, although the feet are not armed, hockey's cover. But years of physical training have made his limbs strong and powerful. Brad wasn't left behind either. A backflip made Nolly's legwork fall into the air. Bang bang bang. The sound of fists and feet intersecting can be heard endlessly. The duel between the two lasted for a long time. After training, the three of them took a bath together, covered in sweat. Smoke filled the bathroom, and the three of them were a little tired and limp, letting out a sigh of relief. In the future, there must be a large bathroom and bathtub on the ship. Nolly closed his eyes, imagining what their ship would look like in his mind. The ship brought out from home needs more improvements. Brad felt the same way, yes, with a grill and a big kitchen. Pirate Flag drooped his head, hanging his head weakly. Feeling the surrounding environment, the navigator also let the sails be put away. We've entered the calm belt, let's start paddling and sailing. Caesar recalled the direction of the next way in his mind, so as to firmly remember the location of this island. They sailed in the middle of New World, and this calm belt should be close to the direction of West Blue. Caesar hooked his lips slightly. The funds accumulated by the rocks, that's very useful. Dozens of oars protruded from both sides of the huge ship, and the sailors lined up to help paddle. The sound of humming and shouting resounded through the sky, as lively as rowing in a dragon boat festival. Eventually, their ship reached an island. The island appeared to be a deserted island, with no signs of living people. There are forests and grasslands all over, and the steep mountains are rolling. Rocks took their group and landed on the island. Golden Lion used his ability to float all the gold, silver and jewelry in the box. Ganali looked envious. This ability is really convenient. They walked into the forest. The forest was very quiet, not a single chirping of birds could be heard. As long as their footsteps echoed in the silent forest. The further you go in, the more abnormal Jing Mi becomes. Brad felt creepy and moved closer to Nolly. Suddenly, ho ho ho. The growl of the beast was close to my ears. Caesar looked up and saw that they were surrounded by a pack of wild wolves. The wild wolves raised their noses and teeth, revealing salivating saliva, as if they were eating them. Caesar narrowed his eyes slightly. Before he could move, the pack of wild wolves froze. The cruel and bloodthirsty animal pupils were instantly filled with fear. The wild wolves were trembling all over, with cold sweat dripping from their brows. Half a second later, he fled in despair. Booming footsteps splashed billowing smoke and dust. Ahem. Caesar blocked it with his sleeve before continuing to follow. It seems that the place where the money is hidden cannot help but be hidden and dangerous. They had just scared off a pack of wolves. After entering a strange area, a steady stream of snakes began to fall from the top of the forest. Brad immediately tensed up. Ganali was not much better and avoided vigilantly. Caesar was secretly startled. No wonder the group of men were waiting outside the forest. If that group of people came in, they would be gone within 2 seconds. Caesar frowned irritably, and opened his eyes. Hockey diffuses. Half a second later, all the snakes shaking on the ground fled away. It is very troublesome to keep falling from above. Rox glanced at the Golden Lion. Golden Lion slowly stretched out his hand. Rumble. All the surrounding trees rose from the ground. The huge roots brought out all the thick soil and flew towards the sky. With a slight flick of the finger, dozens of trees were thrown out. Bang bang bang. It fell to other places in the ground forest, and there was no haze in the sky above. The snakes were all gone too. Everyone breathed a sigh of relief. After leaving this place quickly, they came to a steep rock wall hundreds of meters high. It's up there. When Caesar looked up, there was a cave entrance about tens of meters above the ground. Like a bird's burrow. Most people probably wouldn't have guessed that the other party's money was there. Golden Lion manually manipulated the box to build a staircase between the ground and the cave. So the group of them walked up slowly. After entering the cave, I looked around and saw nothing. An empty place. At a glance, there is no vitality at all. Rox walked over to a brick and pressed it lightly. A pothole appeared in the ground. After drilling a cave, you have to drill into the basement, which is really well hidden. No wonder no one is guarding it at all. Upon entering the basement, the new trio gasped in unison. Caesar was shocked by what he saw. Glittering gold and silver are reflected in the pupils, which are full of all kinds of shining jewels and money, as high as a hill. After a rough look, there are probably tens of billions of Baileys. Caesar couldn't help feeling excited. No wonder Hive Island spends money like water every day. With so much money, there is no need to worry about what to do when it runs out. And the money is still coming in continuously. Besides, Caesar noticed that there were several small boxes piled up in the corner. That's devil fruit. Do you want to eat it? Rox had sat cross-legged on the ground and glanced at him. Caesar shook his head. I still don't need it, unless there is an illustration book of devil fruit's ability. Rox closed his eyes lightly. I see. Bang bang a few times. The jewels brought in by the golden lion were smashed together, and the sound of gold and silver clashing was so beautiful. Brad and Nolly looked at each other and swallowed impatiently. After leaving the cave, they joined the rest of the crew. At night, the moon hangs high. The bonfire swayed. On an open space on the island, the sky was filled with flames and smoke was curling up. Drink, drink. The pirates held up the spirits and clinked glasses with each other, and their warm emotions covered the silence of the night. They held a banquet on the island, and the pirates gathered together in twos and threes, which seemed very lively. In the forest not far away. Boom. Caesar punched a huge boar hard, driving its huge head to the ground. The wild boar's forehead was dizzy, stars were shining in his eyes, and he soon lost consciousness. Caesar, that's amazing. Look at mine. Brad was eager to try. Roar. Transforming into a saber-toothed tiger form, he slammed into a rhino in front of him. Two ferocious beasts, horn against horn, pushed each other. Ho ho. With a low roar, Brad took a few steps forward, raised his front foot, and kicked the rhino hard. Boom. The rhinoceros was overturned immediately, and its strong body hit the ground, causing the ground to tremble. Bang bang bang. The saber-toothed tiger punched the rhinoceros, and within a short while, it got another beast. Naturally, Ganali couldn't bear to lag behind. He squatted on the branch of a tree with his big hammer in hand. What? With a shout, it fell from the sky, and the hammer slammed down on the beast's head. In an instant, the beast collapsed. After a while, Caesar came out of the forest with the two of them, and gave one of the beasts to Rox, and the other to the gathered minion pirates. The remaining one is their own. Treat yourself to a treat. Caesar, it's amazing, this meat tastes really good. Brad's eyes lit up, and he was extremely excited. He cut the beast's meat into pieces, skewered them together, roasted them and coated them with cumin and other seasonings, and the meat skewers immediately exuded a moving fragrance. Caesar smiled. Eat more if it tastes good, I've been training hard these days. Brad nodded quickly and ate the meat with big mouthfuls. Ganali on the side looked a little gentler. Caesar, what happened to that forest just now? It's scary. Caesar frowned, tapped his fingers on his knees, glanced at the scene at the banquet, and whispered, I don't know that either. But there is no doubt that the Rox chose such an island full of phenomena to protect those treasures. Those treasures are his preparations to dominate the world. Of course they must be foolproof. Nolly nodded thoughtfully. He had an intuition that the day when the Rox wanted to dominate the world would not come. He glanced at several cadres, and quickly looked away. Whitebeard was sitting alone in front of a fire, his beard turned bright red from the dying flames, looking extraordinarily weird. There was no one around him, and in this huge pirate group, sitting here, he gave people a sense of loneliness. The same person is the intern Kaido, who keeps pouring wine into his mouth with the bottle in his arms. His cheeks are flushed, and he is drunk. Golden Lion Shiki sat around with a few unknown pirates, and it was obvious that those pirates adored and admired Golden Lion very much. Next to Big Mom's firepile, there are all kinds of desserts, biscuits or chocolate sauce. The ant's mouth was covered with sauce, and she was still smacking her mouth. Staying with the ant is Long Bread and several sons of the ant. Right in front of the Rock's banquet, a seat of dominance, with John, Ochaku, and Silver Axe sitting beside him. Caesar raised the corners of his mouth as if he had lost something. It is almost impossible for a pirate group with a split heart to achieve such a huge ambition. Rox was too arrogant, and even though he was aware of it, he didn't think of a way to change it. Perhaps it is because of his temperament that he is unpopular. The cadres under the banner each have their own ideas. Hey, hey, hey. The sound of the phone bug came from directly ahead. Rox glanced at the pirates, and went out with the phone bug. Celestial dragons. On the other end of the phone worm is his intelligence personnel, who are deployed all over the world, in order to keep abreast of the dynamics of the world government and celestial dragons. Just so that it can come in handy at times like this. The corners of his mouth slowly curled into a crazy arc, and there was a huge satisfaction in his eyes. Bah ha 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 ha. Thank you for your hard work. It's all what I should do. The voiceover there was very respectful, and after delivering the information, he hung up the phone. Rox stood here alone, holding the phone bug in his hand, looking into the distance. After a while, he couldn't restrain himself from laughing arrogantly. Caesar here looked at the back of Rox leaving, his eyes flashed, and he quickly looked away. The rest of the crowd didn't seem to care where Rox went at all, they were only focused on the banquet in front of them. He had some doubts in his heart. This group of people was not in harmony, so they went to help when they were in the Valley of the Gods. In the end, they escaped early or were beaten away by Marine. Never mind. He shook his head, it was useless to think so much, he would know in due time. Marine headquarters. Boom boom boom. Hasty footsteps sounded outside the door. Not long after, the door was pushed open. Report. What's up? The Rox pirates disappeared near the comm belt. What? The Holy Land Marie Joys, one of the most central rooms on the surface of Pangu City. The 5 elders sat scattered across the vast room. All of them exude a breathtaking aura. It is not only the aura of a strong man, but also the majesty of standing at the pinnacle of power. One of the 5 elders said, it's about the celestial dragons. But the focus is on the Rox. Hearing this name, several people's eyes flashed with vigilance and vigilance. The man continued, we lost track of the Rox pirates. Yes. The old men opened their eyes, a little surprised. At this point in time, that's right, the important event of the celestial dragons is about to arrive. At this sensitive time, the Rox pirates have lost track. It really has to make people think about it. Several people were thoughtful. Then, what do you want to do? Their eyes were full of vigilance and vigilance. After discussing for a while, the phone bug made a call. Naval Headquarters, Marine Marshal's office, Kong received a call. Any orders? Rox pirates? Sora frowned, his heart was dark, that notorious pirate group. The pirate group that threatened to overthrow the celestial dragons disappeared at this sensitive time? Not. The voice on the other side of the phone continued. Find out the Rox pirates with all your strength, and try to weaken their strength as much as possible. Yes, I understand. Sora replied respectfully. After he hung up the phone, after thinking for a while, he gave an order. Not long. The Marine headquarters base started to move. 1 admiral and 4 vice admirals headed to New World with a mighty marine fleet. On the mysterious island. After the banquet, everyone fell asleep soundly. Caesar got up early in the morning for training. Run, and explore the terrain here by the way. There is not much on this island. Most of them are poisonous insects and birds and beasts. They stayed here for a few days, relying on the birds and animals in the jungle, they were all well fed. 3 days later, he went to sea again. Still calm belt paddling away. Looking at the sunny sea and the calm sea, Caesar was in a trance. Sudden. Puff. Ho ho ho. A giant sea beast emerges from the bottom of the sea. It's about half the size of a ship. Yes, it's Sea Kings. The members of the ship were amazed and backed away in fright. Several people glanced at their cadres. Afraid? What are you afraid of? All the cadres are here. Although they often kill each other when facing foreign enemies. Those cadres are still very reliable. Caesar's fingertips moved slightly. Haven't shot yet. Boom. Kaido's mace hit hard. The sea beast's cheeks were flattened. The skull must have been crushed. It crashed into the sea. Water splashes. Next, Sea Kings appeared one after another. Standing alone in a corner, they drove off the Sea Kings with ease. Once out of the comm belt, the crew breathed a sigh of relief. After Rock's pirate ship appeared in New World, it was immediately monitored by the Marine Intelligence Organization. With Admiral, the Rock's pirate ship was detected near West Blue. On the deck of the Marine fleet, there stood a 2-meter-tall man with 3 cigars in his mouth. The smog made the reporting Marine cough non-stop. Zephyr was standing right downwind. With a violent temper, the veins on his forehead popped up. Damn. You bastard. And glanced at him, slowly protruding a circle of thick smoke. Sorry. Let's follow up. Yes. The Marine fleet immediately adjusted its course and advanced at full speed. There was a look of disgust in his eyes. He waved the smoke in front of him with his hand, and jumped. Jumped onto another Marine warship. Garp is eating biscuits on top. He glanced at him helplessly, 1 or 2 or so unreliable. I heard that Rock's pirate ship has been tracked down. Looks like there's going to be another big fight. Garp stopped chewing and looked at the crane. Really? About an hour passed. Caesar's brows and eyes were condensed, and he felt a powerful breath gradually approaching. It's Marine. His voice is serious, and it's not just one ship, it's a whole fleet. The scale is bigger than last time. What's so scary about Marine? Compared to last time, there is one more top powerhouse. The pirates who heard about it didn't pay much attention at first. Hearing this, I immediately became a little nervous. On the opposite side, Garp, holding a telescope, also spotted the Rock's pirate ship. Found it. The distance of the Marine fleet is gradually pulled in. And the cannons were set up, and the war was imminent. Rox was also standing on the deck, saw Sengoku and Garp, and burst into a maniacal laugh. Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Big Mom all stand behind Rox. The breath of the strong permeates silently, boom boom boom. A figure slowly walked out from behind Zephyr's 4 vice-admirals. Caesar's pupils shrank. So strong, is this the strength of Admiral? Whitebeard raised his eyebrows slightly, the ant looked coldly, is it Admiral? Golden Lion's voice was particularly arrogant, gee ha 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 ha, you actually sent an Admiral, you really think highly of us. Puff puff puff. As soon as the Golden Lion finished speaking, the Admiral stretched out his hand, and red and coquettish flowers emerged from his fingertips. From a distance, he looked extremely coquettish and evil. The bright red buds bloomed at the fingertips, and a puff of air began to diffuse from the stamens. Wow, what does it smell like? Retching sounded one after another, and Caesar couldn't help covering his nose quickly. A smell of rotting corpses hits my face, and when I accidentally inhale a little, I feel that my whole breath will be taken away. Bang bang bang. Several pirates fell down on the deck, they were still struggling with the smell just now. The Golden Lion beside him frowned, be careful, this smell is poisonous. Everyone immediately looked at the very strange Admiral with serious vigilance. What's the matter with that ability? What? There were screams one after another. Looking at Caesar, several pirates fell to their knees with a bang, and their bodies began to rot everywhere. He frowned, and glanced at the blood-red flowers with fat feet. With a twinkle in his eyes, he always felt that this flower seemed familiar, and he didn't know where he had seen it before. He held his breath the whole time, and frowned seriously when he saw this. Shouted to the group of pirates, don't touch those flowers, don't touch the pollen either. Brad felt his scalp numb all the time, it's disgusting, that flower looks like the fangs of a beast. The fangs of beasts. Caesar's pupils shrank instantly, and a white light flashed in his mind, remembering the name of this flower. Giant konjac, also known as carrion flower. It exudes the smell of rotting corpses all the year round, and it looks like blood. The white stamens in the flowers are like the fangs of wild beasts. He had never heard of a fruit that could produce this kind of flower in this world. Just as his back was getting cold, Rox sneered. It's you guy, long time no see, haven't you died of old age yet? Admiral, who was biting a cigar, slowly exhaled a puff of smoke, crazy pirate, go to hell. And Admiral sneered and jumped up, boom. Rox's body armor hardened, and he punched hard. That Admiral's head instantly turned into a corpse flower tens of meters in diameter, with fangs dripping blood. Roar. Spew out countless white spikes. Rox dodged very quickly, and the pirates behind him screamed. After being pierced by the white spikes, they immediately turned into a pool of blood. Everyone gasped, this ability is too scary. Caesar and the others quickly moved away from the battle range of Admiral and Rox. Golden Lion floated above one of the marine battleships, looked at the ant-like marine, sneered, and stretched out his hand gently. The marine warship suddenly soared into the air, with its head facing upwards, tilting and rising slowly. Ah! The boat is going to fall. It's the Golden Lion. The marine soldiers were flustered and at a loss, and hurriedly grabbed the things around them. Garp frowned, picked up a cannonball, and threw it away. Call out. The shells burst through the air. Boom. It exploded in front of the Golden Lion. The marine warship lost its function and fell to the sea. Seeing this, the pirates on the rocks immediately stepped forward and raised their butcher knives at the weak marines. After the thick smoke from the shells dissipated, Golden Lion was still standing there, unscathed, but his face was stinky. Looking at Garp, the veins on his forehead popped out, bastard Garp. With a buzzing sound, Sengoku took the Buddha form. The golden Buddha statue is extremely dazzling under the sunlight. The dazzling light made the pirates hardly dare to open their eyes. Crunch. The Buddha's arm moved slightly, and with the strength of 1,000 pieces of gold, he pounded heavily. Clang. Whitebeard's naginata blocked his golden palm. The crisp sound of gold and iron clashing suddenly resounded, and a strong air blast exploded from the junction. Click click click. Shattered cracks spread from the phase. The seawater was shaken and churned. Both the marine warship and the pirate ship were swaying under the power of shock fruit. Marines or pirates fell into the water one after another, just like dumpling. The air was shattered, and the marine ship behind Sengoku was also slightly affected. Whitebeard raised his head slightly, meeting the eyes of the huge Buddha statue. The eyes of the Sengoku Buddha statue show the wrath of Vajra. Edward Newgate, take it easy. Newgate's whitebeard shakes, long blonde hair shakes. Ku la 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 la, Sengoku, you are too preachy, you can catch a pirate without a fight. I really want to laugh Lousy's big teeth off. Whitebeard yelled loudly and exerted more force on his hands. The hockey of the two collided, and the fuchsia lightning bolted. Spreading from between the two, the blown airflow turned into a hurricane, blowing people to pieces. The hockey duel between the two grows stronger. The world changes color, thunder and lightning. Here, Big Mom took a standard pirate-style machete and landed in one of the marine fleets. It's Charlotte Linlin. Shooting. The marines surrounded her, the sound of gunshots rang out one after another, and the smell of gunpowder smoke spread instantly. The ant said in a shrill voice, "Get out of here." With a swipe of the machete in his hand, the sharp slash instantly shredded the shells. Boom boom boom. The shells exploded in midair, gathering thick black smoke. Kang. The crisp blade roared, and Big Mom's sharp vision was blocked by Zephyr's hardened left arm. Armament hockey hardened his right arm and hit him hard. Boom. Big Mom's pupil shrank, and she teleported away. Charlotte Linlin's forehead was full of veins, her long lips were grinning, her huge nose was shaking, she looked like a witch. The machete in his hand is full of power. Kang kang kang. Fight Zephyr non-stop, keeping each other at bay. In front of Caesar there was also a person, Crane Vice Admiral. Caesar backed away a little, and understood her ability, just be careful not to let her touch it. Kang. The word he Dao popped out of the scabbard, and in an instant, a crescent-shaped slash was struck. He took off his gloves without haste, and stretched out his hand gently. Suddenly, the fierce attack turned into a crescent-shaped ribbon, flying in the air. Caesar's brows and eyes were condensed, and he could actually attack directly. Bang bang bang. He kept waving the Wadaichi characters, slashing one after another, and hockey entwined on it. The crane flipped somersault, dodged these slashes, and tried to fight at close range. But he has been blocked by the slash. Afterwards, the armed color hardens both feet. With a spin on the ground, his hardened footsteps collided with his slash. Slash wave. Caesar held up the word, Hedao, with both hands, and stroked from top to bottom. Bang bang bang. The sharp slash directly cut off a marine warship. And the crane was also a little embarrassed because of dodging. She gritted her teeth, looked at Caesar vigilantly, and looked a little more serious. It turned out to be stronger. Just over a month has passed. This person is undoubtedly powerful. John Ochaku and others also faced Marines' elite troops. The long knife in Ochaku's hand is as heavy as 1,000 pieces of gold, and every time he cuts it, the hull shakes loudly. The Marine soldiers kept shooting at him, and the shells were blocked by the shield in the other hand. The sound of clang clang is endless. There were also traces of black on his silver armor. John fought with Zephyr's men. Brad turned on the form of the saber-toothed tiger, roared at the Marine soldier, and rushed quickly. Bang bang bang. The bullet hit his body and was blocked by hard scales. The sharp claws slammed forward fiercely, and they were about to slap these Marines to death. Kang. A stone stick was held against his hand. Brad felt powerless for a while, and the saber-toothed tiger form came into contact immediately. He frowned and looked at each other. It's Seastone. Major. The Marines shouted excitedly as if they were saved. Ganali flipped over and landed beside Brad. I'll deal with the Seastone weapon. Brad immediately retreated tacitly. It was too late to say it, and the Marine, who was called the Major, bent his knees and pointed the stone stick in Brad's direction. Boom. The muscles in Ganali's arm twitched violently, and his arm hardened. Kang kang kang. In this piece of sea area, the shouts shook the sky, and the flames burst into the sky. The sound of booming explosions and the roar of metal and iron weapons are intertwined and can be heard endlessly. After a few days, everyone was a little tired. The ships on both sides are dilapidated, the flames are still burning, and the damage is constantly expanding. Caesar frowned slightly, and there was a look of impatience in his eyes. This Marine Vice Admiral was too difficult to deal with. He glanced at the little pirates who were badly injured, and the Marine soldiers who were equally dead and injured. If the fight continues, the pirates they came out this time, except for the cadres and the strong John Ochaku, will be wiped out. Even John Ochaku and the others were out of breath and exhausted. A piece of Ochaku's armor was torn, and the beard around the long sword's waist was also burned a little. His face was gray and black, and he was in a panic. Rox took a moment to tell them, "It's almost there." He didn't want to die here with the Marines. Understood. Hearing what Rox said, the pirates prepare for an evacuation battle. One blade flow chop wind. Caesar turned around and said a word. The afterimage formed a circle, and a powerful slash hit the crane. Crane's pupils shrank sharply, his armor hardened, he blocked it with both fists, and his body retreated rapidly. Boom. The crane hit the marine ship, and the hull was severely damaged again. Caesar didn't like to fight, and quickly returned to the pirate ship. Rox and the others were also prepared, and everyone evacuated in a tacit understanding. The Golden Lion took control of their wrecked pirate ship and headed off. The marine fleet left in place, with only 1 or 2 ships left, is good. Zephyr hadn't played enough, and wanted to chase, but was blocked by Admiral. Forget it. The task has been completed. Their purpose is to weaken the combat power of the Rox pirates, and a battle of both sides with all their strength is enough. Also, we have no more combat power left. Looking back, the Marines suffered heavy casualties. The Rox pirate ship escaped a certain distance. After confirming safety, Golden Lion randomly found a safe place to land. The 3 ships that originally went to sea have been reduced to 1. And this boat is also very dangerous, it creaks, and it feels like it will be torn apart at any time. The atmosphere on the ship was a bit dull. The usually arrogant pirate was either injured or disappeared in the battle just now. The cadres also went to find places to rest. It has deviated from the original route. What should I do? The navigator asked Rox tremblingly. Rox's face was dark. Although he himself was only slightly injured in the battle, his team suffered too much damage. After leaving the battlefield, he kept cursing the nasty marine. He glanced at the navigator. Whatever, I want to find an island to land first, and then continue after confirming the direction. Yes. Next day. Their dilapidated pirate ship sailed slowly on the sea, and the crew looked around with binoculars on the watchtower. Hiss, that is, what did you find? Caesar noticed the movement over there, spread out the observation hockey, and instantly sensed a medium-sized island. After those pirates went to report to Rox, they landed ashore. Brad with a bandage on his arm and Nolly with a bruise on his cheek, the 2 landed with Caesar. Perceived with the color of knowledge, except for them, there is no breath of living people. When we arrived on the island, we walked deeper, only to find that there were some ruins on the island. It seems that it has been a long time since now. He listened to the occasional cooing sound in the forest, his eyes flickered slightly. There should have been civilization here before, but it should have been destroyed. Is that why it became the desert island it is now? Rox asked everyone to go to the island to find planks that could repair the ship. Caesar took Brad and Nolly into the forest and carried 2 beasts and beasts out as rations. In the afternoon, a pirate crew member ran out panting. Boat, Captain, there is a red stone in it. Although he didn't know what it was, but looking at the ancient inscription on it, his intuition should be very important, so he came back to report. Caesar frowned instantly. The red stone, could it be? 3 minutes later, they came to the red stone that the crew said. When the red square stone came into view, his pupils constricted suddenly. Red history text? According to legend, it can guide the coordinates of the final island. He remembered that in the original book, the ant also had a piece of red history text in her hand. Could it be this piece here? Then, is this area the same sea area where Dama established the 10,000 kingdoms? Rox frowned slightly, obviously knowing something about this red history text. The Whitebeard, Golden Lion, Kaido all had serious and gloomy expressions. It's this thing. Everyone in Whitebeard looked thoughtful, presumably they should have some understanding of this red history text. Auntie was different, her pupils trembled violently in her widened eyes, and her eyes were full of longing and greed. After a long while, he stuck out his tongue and licked his red lips, suppressing the hotness in his eyes. Rox was silent for a while, and finally let the Golden Lion move the thing to the boat. Several days have passed on this deserted island. The dilapidated ship was finally repaired, and the injured were properly bandaged. So they set off on the journey again. A few days later, they arrived at a nearby inhabited island. The pirates are coming. It's a pirate. Just approaching the port, the residents on the shore ran towards the town hoarsely. The pupils trembled violently, as if seeing a Shira-like scene. Rox walked towards the town with a few people in a calm manner. Their arrival undoubtedly caused panic here. But the Rox don't care about that kind of stuff. They didn't intend to plunder this time. they went into the tavern to eat and drink, and asked their men to replenish some supplies that were not available on the desert island. After the location was successfully determined, they led everyone towards the Hive Island. Boom boom boom. The weather in New World is treacherous and unpredictable. It was sunny just now, but in an instant it became cloudy with thunder and lightning. Purple lightning illuminates the dark sea. Brush it. The torrential rain washes away, and the boat floats on the sea with the undulating waves. Caesar was completely wet, but he didn't enter the cabin. Watching the crew frantically furling the sails, he just stood firmly on the deck. Look up and enjoy the baptism of the rainstorm. The majestic power of nature can also open his heart again. This is also one of his cultivation methods. Left full rudder. A little bit to the right, we're going to hit a rock. 3 hours later, the dark clouds cleared and the sky returned to its usual blue color. Caesar also returned to the cabin and changed into clean and crisp clothes. 2 days later, the Rocks pirates returned to the base camp of Hive Island. I actually feel a little relieved. Brad felt incredible. Ganali sighed, it's normal, at least you don't have to fight Marine on this island. After a few people sighed a few words, they went back to their respective homes. Caesar took a day's rest before taking Brad and Nolly to the deserted islands around Hive Island. Practice. Brad asked strangely, why are you in such a hurry? I just got back. He felt a little hopeless. Caesar pursed his lips, we're running out of time. As soon as he said this, both of them became serious and looked at him seriously. Ganali guessed. It means that we will soon be able to establish a pirate group by ourselves? Caesar nodded. From some clues, he could deduce it. It seems that the Valley of Gods incident is not far away. He had to be prepared for this, and it was imminent to improve the strength of Brad and Nolly. After all, Nolly is his favorite vice-captain, and Brad is sure to become the backbone of his combat team. Come on, you attack me together. Caesar instantly hardened his armor, and posed in a pose, beckoning to the two of them. Nolly and Brad looked at each other, and the fist hit instantly. Caesar dodged quickly, fist fast. Hockey is focused on the fist, and so is the strength. Boom. He blocked Nolly's sweeping leg with the calf of his leg. The movements should be coherent, and there should be no pause between the previous movement and the next movement. That second of hesitation is the key to your defeat. Caesar started to fight back, his body flickering in the air, which was caused by his too fast movement. Suddenly in front of them, and suddenly behind them. So fast that they couldn't capture the figure. Don't rely too much on your eyes when fighting. Develop a habit and use your mind to perceive, otherwise, your observation hockey will never be able to awaken. Bang bang bang. He punched Nolly from the side and sent him flying. The thrown body bounced on the ground several times before finally stopping. Nolly covered his cheek, blood dripping down the corner of his mouth. Boom. Brad was kicked into the air by him. Then he jumped into the air, stomped his heels hard, and threw Brad to the ground. Come again. The two injured people cheered up even more, and their attention was highly concentrated. Recalling the precautions and combat skills of Caesar just now, a new round of battle began. Don't hesitate to punch. Brad's fist smashed towards the front of Caesar with a fierce fist. Caesar flashed behind him and kicked out. Brad turned his head sharply, resisting his attack with both hands, and his body was pushed back a distance of 1 meter. The block is slow. Crack a few times. The two fought several times. Caesar said while fighting, don't forget to defend while attacking, it's okay to attack and defend. But it must be 360 degrees without dead ends. Don't give the enemy any chance. Ganali waited aside, looking for an opportunity to make a move. What? Nolly's fists wrapped by armament hockey exploded with great strength. Boom. Caesar's figure flashed, and his fist hit Nolly's abdomen fiercely. His stone hammer is held high. While attacking with weight, pay attention to the opponent's victory with speed. Also, don't leave obvious openings for the enemy. The middle door is wide open, which is a taboo in battle. Cough. Nolly coughed violently, coughing up some red blood, and his mouth was filled with the smell of blood. Roar. Brad turned into a saber-toothed tiger and roared, baring his sharp teeth and rushing towards him. Caesar jumped and rolled onto Brad's back. Brad shook his body violently, trying to throw him off. Caesar lifted a leg, and the rich armament hockey lingered on it. Boom. Boom. Brad's back sank deeply, his spine was almost broken, and his whole body. A tiger lay on the ground. Don't move. After a long while, the two were covered with moderate scars and bloodline all over their bodies, panting, watching Caesar's every movement with vigilant eyes. Don't be afraid when you are at a disadvantage, calmly look for the enemy's flaws. Analyze the enemy's weaknesses. Attack and defense are in one piece. This time, Caesar's hands-on strength is stronger than every previous training, and it seems that he is very serious about wanting them to improve. The two looked at each other and moved at the same time. Tiger hunting. Straight punch. One person attacks the bottom, and one person attacks the top. Brad rushed towards him violently, the sharp canine teeth in his mouth glowing with the coldness of the forest. Kang. Caesar blocked it with a hand hardened by the armor, and smiled slightly. Not bad, the cooperation of the two of you. In team combat, cooperation is also a very important awareness. And also, Caesar staggered and flashed behind Nolly. With a somersault, the swift force accumulated on the back of his feet, knocking down Ganali severely. Boom. Caesar flipped back and landed on the ground, smiling slightly. Be vigilant at all times. On the deserted island on the east side of Hive Island, the sound of bang bang can be heard endlessly. The fighting figures never stopped, this day. Under the moon. With a loud shout, Nolly jumped up under Brad's ground defense. Spinning in the air, his right foot gathered all his strength and slammed down on Caesar. Caesar's hardened fists were easily blocked. The center of gravity moves down, and the bottom plate is very stable. Under such a gravity kick, it does not move at all. Ganali fell to the ground, kneeling on one leg, breathing hard, almost breathless. Brad also released the saber-toothed tiger form, and limp on the ground weakly. The heads of the two were touching, and their bodies were limp. After several days of sleepless nights, their physical strength has been completely exhausted. Why are you still motionless? Caesar, are you a devil? Both of them were very tired and lost. After so many days of training with all their strength, are fighting, they failed to hurt Caesar. Your strength has been greatly improved, not bad. A slightly relieved smile appeared on Caesar's face. After his precise observation, Brad is at least at the level of Rear Admiral. And Ganali is even more powerful, at the elite level in Rear Admiral. Also, Gnarly used Conqueror's Haki several times. The control of Conqueror's Haki has been more precise. That's it, observation Haki. Caesar sat next to the two. I'll have something to eat later, and then we'll continue training. Next, continue with observation Haki's awakening training. Brad and Nolly sat up and looked at each other. Observation Haki. Caesar nodded. We must awaken the color of knowledge as soon as possible. In the battle between the strong, knowledge and knowledge are particularly important. Without knowledge, in a battle with the strong, it is tantamount to being blind and deaf. Blindfolded, Caesar relieved the two of them of their dependence on the eyes. In urgent situations, force them to use their instincts to perceive the external situation. This is according to the training method that really guides Luffy to awaken observation Haki in the anime. Very good. Brad was full of energy in an instant, his fists touched his palms, his eyes were burning, and he was looking forward to quickly opening observation Haki. That sure is cool, and... He glanced at Caesar, his lips curled up slightly, his face full of anticipation. Although it is difficult to catch up, at least you can catch up for a while, and you can't fall too far behind the boss. Nolly's eyes were also eager to try. Observation Haki awe. After hours of training. Lord Caesar. A voice suddenly came, interrupting the cultivation of the three of them. It is the person who brings the food. Caesar was busy teaching the two of them to train and had no time to hunt, so he simply used money to hire the crew on the ship to deliver meals to them at regular intervals. Today is octopus rice, Master Caesar, please use it slowly. The two pirates who brought over 2 buckets of rice and vegetables had dogleg smiles on their faces. Caesar threw them a bag of Baileys, and the eyes of the two burst into excitement. Thank you, Mr. Caesar. The three of them sat around the bonfire, cooking quickly. Half an hour later. Eat and drink enough. The pair continued to be blindfolded and were beaten by Caesar with a stick. You can't fight back yet, you can only hide. Boom. He was hit in the head with a stick. Ah, it hurts. Brad clutched his head and cried out in pain. While Gnarly was gloating, there was another bang. Hiss. He also had a big bag on his head. Covering the bulging big bag with both hands. I didn't feel any breath at all. The last time the beast attacked, at least there were footsteps and roars. Caesar's attack was really silent. When he felt the breeze brought by the attack, a big bag had already formed on his head. Go on, cheer up, stay calm, and feel with your heart. The two suddenly became alert. Concentrate on the forehead, where you might get beaten. Boom. What? The leg was kicked, and Brad knelt down alone. It hurts. Immediately afterwards, Caesar's long legs swept across again. Nolly tensed up. There was a snap, was kicked in the waist. Ganali clutched the painful area, very unconvinced. Come again. Under the bright moon hanging high, the sound of cries of pain and the sound of physical contact and beating intertwined. resounding through the night. After a few days of training in this way, they returned to the Hive Island to prepare some supplies, and took a half-day rest by the way. Caesar walked down the street, narrowing his eyes slightly as he felt something was wrong. Brad and Nolly also looked at each other. Why is the island so quiet? Usually walking through the central street is full of the sound of pirates playing. Just like a large entertainment venue, there are many people who are drunk and dreaming. Today it was silent. There was an inexplicable sense of calm before the storm. I ran into the two people who brought them food head-on. Nolly asked about the situation on the island. Master Caesar is not on the island, so he doesn't know. Captain Rock's ordered to recharge his batteries recently. The war is about to begin. I won't go to sea anytime soon. After the two left, Caesar stroked his chin thoughtfully. The Great War refers to the incident where the Valley of the Gods attacked the celestial dragons. That really needs to be recharged. After all, the members of the Rock's pirates are already dissolute. It is not impossible for them to go to the battlefield drunk without restraint. Ganali nodded knowingly. No wonder the island is so quiet. I thought something was wrong. Caesar shrugged. Let's go. This is just right. We don't need to go to sea. We will have enough time to train. Awesome. There is no need for food deliverers anymore. They brought enough food to the desert island for nearly closed training. After a few days, Brad and Nolly were still blindfolded. Caesar, still holding a stick, hit the two at unexpected timing and location. Boom. The ground crumbles. Nolly moved away, Caesar hooked his lips, and continued to move forward. The wooden stick was so powerful that almost every blow failed. Boom. Armed hardened fists blocked the wooden stick in his hand. Ganali's mood suddenly became agitated. I sensed it again. Snapped. The next moment, the stick hit his face. From the top to the bottom of the cheek, there was a red and swollen mark, which was very obvious. Brad, who tore off the black cloth, pointed at Nolly and laughed nonstop. Caesar reluctantly withdrew his stick. It's still the same, now and then. Noticing Ganali's speechless expression, he paused for a second, feeling a little relieved. But it's good, at least it's awakened, it's better than some idiot. It didn't work even once. Knowing that he was talking about himself, Brad immediately clutched his chest. I'm hurt, it's too much, boss. Caesar ruffled his yellow hair like a dog's head. You have to work hard, Brad. Okay, let's continue. The two sat down again, with Caesar standing behind him, brandishing his club. Snapped. Boom. Brad was hit and rolled out of the way, slamming his body against the rocks. No, continue. Another bang, right in the middle. Come again, come again. Dozens of days later. Whoosh. Nolly's head dodged extremely quickly, and the stick in Caesar's hand was only left in afterimages. 1, 2, 3. 50. It has surpassed his previous highest record, and Ganali counted silently, feeling happy and a little excited for a while. Boom. In the middle of the head, a big bag was raised. Ganali clutched the bulge of the big bag, and sighed, is it not working again? Caesar swung the stick, probably because you got emotional. He stepped forward and patted him on the shoulder. I'm already familiar with it, keep working hard. It's impossible to keep one mood forever when fighting, but no matter what mood you have to be calm. You need to be more proficient. Ganali nodded seriously. Ah, I know. When it was Brad's turn, perpetual bang bang bang. But this time, whoosh, it's empty. Caesar was a little surprised. Hey, did it work? Brad tore off the black cloth and jumped up happily. It's true. It's really, really successful. I sensed your attack intention and attack direction just now. Dozens of days passed like this. Blindfolded, Gnarly took a step back, and the stick in front of him emptied. Caesar jumped up, from top to bottom, and swung heavily. Ganali blocked his head with his hardened fists, threw away the stick, and slammed at him. Boom. Caesar took his fist. He raised his right foot and kicked hard. With a snap, the other hand blocked it. Caesar flips back and stamps his heels hard, and Gnarly ducks sideways. Okay, Ganali, you can already stabilize observation hockey in battle. And the scope is slowly expanding. Great progress, you. Gnarly's talent is really strong, Caesar thought to himself. Brad can't do it at the moment. His observation hockey is still intermittent, and he is still in the familiar stage. Gnarly, that's amazing. Brad looked at him enviously. Gnarly glanced at his fist. Observation hockey does help in combat, but only as a support for now. But I want to increase the attack power. After going out to sea with Caesar, big and small have also experienced several battles, and he is more and more eager for that kind of fast and violent attack. With a simple fist, the attack power seems to be a little bit worse. Caesar was slightly stunned, and asked, do you want to choose a weapon? Gnarly nodded, yes. Then do you have any favorite weapons? The first image that flashed in Nolly's mind was the appearance of Caesar cutting out a great rift valley with his sword. That kind of power is what he yearns for. Swordsmanship. I want to learn swordsmanship. That is the most direct attack method, and his upper limit is higher than his attack method. Have you decided? He nodded again and again, there is determination in his eyes. Improving strength is urgent, and learning swordsmanship is the best and most desired choice for him. Kang kang kang. The sound of gold and iron clashing resounded through the sky. The figures of Caesar and Nolly kept interlacing and moving under the moonlight. Before the swords collided, sparks flew. Ganali held a samurai sword in his hand. The blade was cut obliquely, outlining a sharp point. With every blow, he used all his strength, bringing an amazing momentum. Ganali's progress was very fast, and it was only when he was taught the basics of swordsmanship that he was able to dance the sword with great power. While he went to teach Brad the observation hockey, Nolly slashed at rocks by himself. Clang clang clang. The huge 3-meter-high rock is covered with the scars of Madara's knife. Ganali's eyes were firm, and his eyes shone with the desire to become stronger. When training, my mind is full of scenes of Caesar holding a sword and fighting the enemy. Just imagining how I will become like that in the future makes people feel excited. Clear goals give birth to unlimited motivation. Click, click. The knife marks on the stone are getting deeper and deeper. The rubble from the rocks was covered in smoke and dust. It's been about a week. Boom. The 3-meter-high rock shattered under his constant pounding. He didn't use armed force, but from the beginning, he felt the breath of all things, that is, the realm of cutting iron. And his strength is not bad, and he can understand by analogy. In less than 10 days, he was able to cut stones. This shows that his first stage of training has been completed. A happy smile appeared on his face. The two of Caesar heard the bombing and looked at him with joy on their faces. Such a big rock is amazing, Nolly. Caesar gave him a thumbs up, the next stage is ready. He pointed to the east side, and walked a few hundred meters there, and there was a collapsed house, which was originally a frame made of steel and iron frames. The soil fell, leaving only an iron frame. Go ahead, try cutting the iron. A raging flame burned in Ganali's eyes, it was a flame called becoming stronger. Another week passed. Kang kang kang. The sharp and long sound of the metal and iron fighting is clear and sweet. Echoed for a long time under the scorching sun. Ganali was holding the handle of the knife tightly with both hands, standing with his feet slightly bent, panting. His face was covered with sweat. The clothes on his body were already soaked with sweat. His hands trembled slightly, apparently gradually losing strength. Nolly clenched his teeth, thinking of the time he had set for himself, and took a deep breath. Take a step forward and continue to slash hard. Where they collide, little sparks splash out, like the burning wool in the bottom of my heart, which is endless. Ah! Unwilling to succumb to this mere physical strength and scorching sun, he shouted loudly and raised his sword high. Under the sunlight of Yang Liang, the sharp blade shone coldly. Break it. The blue veins on his forehead popped up, and he was on the verge of breaking out. Clang. Click. That steel is broken. Ganali's pupils trembled slightly, and after panting violently, he finally couldn't support himself and fell down. When he fainted, there was still a satisfied smile on his face. Here, Brad's observation hockey training is also in full swing. The head melon quickly dodged the stick swung behind him. Brad barely caught a trail of the stick close at hand. But when standing up and fighting, that feeling is faintly visible, sometimes disappearing. Caesar picked up speed, and the club slashed through the air. 1, 2, 3, 4, 55, 157. Dodging more and more attacks proves that he is more and more familiar with observation hockey. Stand up. After a while, enter the fighting state. Snapped. As soon as he stood firm, he was thrown out with a stick in the face. Continue. The stick swept across, and Brad barely avoided it sideways. The next moment, there was a bang. He was hit hard, and his back hit the ground. You're almost ready, keep going. Caesar scratched his head, encouraging. Meanwhile, on Beehive Island, Rox, with his feet on the table, holds the information from the crew in his hands. Fingers covered with emerald gemstone rings of various colors frown as they frown across the various information on it. Suddenly, the phone bug on his chest started to vibrate and made a grinning sound. A moment later, Rock's originally irritated mood brightened instantly, and an excited look appeared in his eyes. There was also excitement on his face. Bahahahaha. Finally it's coming. He walked out of the room in 2s and 3s to gather his crew. It's time to go. Holy Land Marie Joys. Pangu City was busier than usual. Looking around, there are nearly 100 people with transparent bubbles on their heads. That is the nobles of the world, celestial dragons. The celestial dragons, with arrogance in their eyes, ride on the backs of chained slaves, holding a long whip in their hands. Snapped. The long whip was swung, and blood was splashed everywhere. The slave lying on the ground and crawling forward had a long bloodstain on his body. The slave only trembled, and walked forward as if nothing had happened. He was used to it. A second later, the whip will hit the body like dense raindrops. The slave's body was covered with scars and skinny, but the people on both sides of the road were not surprised. Eyes full of numbness and indifference. Just because sitting on the slave's back is the world's most noble, celestial dragons. Click click. The propellers of the elevator kept turning, making a heavy sound and blowing a huge gust of wind. In front of 5 elders, Marshal Kong stood respectfully, bowed his head slightly, waiting for orders. In the transparent window behind 5 elders, Sea King swims leisurely, like a beast with its minions pulled out and no threat. The celestial dragons are about to set off to the new world. Wearing a black suit and a flat hat, a man with white curly hair spoke slowly, his hoarse voice filling his ears. The bald man wearing round glasses next to him said immediately, "This is a very important matter, so there must be no mistakes. You send a marine with the strength of admiral to follow. Remember to be quiet and try not to attract the attention of the pirates, especially rocks." Sora nodded. "I see." Back in the marshal's office, Kong put his hands on his chin, frowned, and thought carefully. After a while, he hesitated again and again, and still wrote the word, "Garp," on the paper. Among the Marines who currently have the admiral level, besides him, there is an admiral in Garp Sengoku Zephyr. And Garp is the strongest, second only to him, so Sora felt that it would be more appropriate to entrust this matter to him. After a while, 4 vice admirals with different status from Admiral and Garp appeared in the empty marshal's office. After hearing about his mission, Garp frowned tightly, with a hint of irritability flashing in his eyes. "Does it have to be me?" Looking at him steadfastly, "Yes, it's you. That's an order, Garp." He also didn't want to force Garp to perform a task he hated with orders, if he could. But there was nothing he could do about it. He sighed slowly. After a long silence, Garp reluctantly accepted the order. Then the others. Kong looked at the others, secretly pay attention to the movements of the pirates, especially the Rocks pirate group, and keep an eye on them. It's a matter of great importance, and there can be no mistakes. Yes. 3 days later, Garp took the Marines to Pangu City. His face was more serious than ever. His subordinates felt a strong sense of oppression from him. It seems that from the moment they entered the territory of celestial dragons, their house, Vice Admiral, was covered by dark clouds, and it was dark. After rendezvous with the celestial dragons, they set off towards the new world. Hive Island. The 3 of Caesar have returned to the island. The central square was packed with people. Rocks gathered all the members of the pirate group here, stood on the high platform above, and the voice was transmitted to every corner of the island. The celestial dragons have departed from Marie Joy's. Our time is coming soon, brothers. Like a rebel leader giving a speech, Rocks spread his hands and described to everyone the wonderful life after overthrowing the celestial dragons. Oh, the pirates were all in high spirits and responded excitedly. Caesar pursed his lower lip. Did this start? He looked at Brad and Nolly, put his hands on their shoulders, and whispered, "This war is dangerous, our only purpose. Keep in mind that it is to protect yourself." Brad and Nolly gritted their teeth, took a deep look at Caesar, and nodded sharply. The ambition in Rock's eyes grew bigger and bigger, and the excitement couldn't be suppressed at all. Those bastard celestial dragons are already heading for the Valley of the Gods, and we're sailing, brothers. Yes. Get on the deck of the ship. More than a dozen pirate ships set off mightily. When he arrived at the waters of New World, he was immediately caught by the Marines. Seeing this huge fleet, the Marines felt very bad, and all of them broke out in cold sweat. Caesar was a little puzzled. Judging from the map and the pointer, the direction the ship was sailing was not the Valley of the Gods. After a while, we entered the calm belt. He frowned tightly, and was even more puzzled in his heart. What is Rocks going to do here? And Marine headquarters. And Admiral, the Rocks pirates, seems to want to go to calm belt in the direction of West Blue. A Marine stood at the door, saluted, and reported in a trembling voice. The Rocks pirates are coming out in full force, and it looks like they are going to make a big move. He frowned, and the smoke around his mouth was lingering. If in the modern world, the concentration of smoke might trigger the fire alarm. Marine, who was standing at the front of the smoke blowing, did not dare to continue talking, and held his breath for fear that he would accidentally choke. Big move. Where are they now? The Marine froze. Sorry Admiral, we lost track of them when they entered the comm belt. What did you say? A cold light swept over Admiral, and the Marine shuddered immediately, and lowered his head nervously. He squinted his eyes slightly, with heavy vigilance in his eyes. Rocks, you guy, you are really unstable. After Marshal Kong knew about this, he frowned deeply. Sure enough, Rocks really doesn't stop. Continue to investigate, and report as soon as there is news.